How do these play a role in our leadership transformation?
Because if you don't know what you stand for or what you value, how are you even going to lead yourself, therefore lead others? And my philosophy is don't ever ask for something you're not willing to offer. Workplace environment needs leaders that are kind and gracious and smile, to try to find the gift in all the challenges in their lives. Find the gift, not just survival, the gift, because that will shift you into a place of gratitude. And graciousness really starts with gratitude.
Dr. Yasmin Davidds, it is so great to have you on the podcast. Thanks for coming on.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited.
We're talking about your book today. It's out already, came out May 28th, 2024. Graciously Assertive, How Becoming a Better Human Makes You a Better Leader. I love that subtitle specifically. It's like, we need to become a better human being to be better leaders. So like, maybe what was the idea behind this book in the first place?
I believe simultaneously, if you become a better leader, you become a better human. If you become a better human, you become a better leader. And this actually came about from actual proof in real life. And that is that I was helping women through my leadership program become better communicators, have impact, own their power. And they felt very empowered, and they went and told their bosses exactly how they felt, which did not go over well because of their tone and their, empowerment. And they came back and they weren't getting the results they wanted. And I said, okay, we need to shift. Right now, it's a one-way process. It's a one-way communication model. You're telling them what you want, what you expect, but you're not taking in consideration. They have their struggles. They have their fears. They have their needs and wants. So you need to be more gracious in how you approach it. Stay open to understanding their needs while simultaneously then sharing yours. So I started teaching them how to appreciate, start with gratitude, appreciate them just for showing up and being there with you and creating these steps. And as they started applying this new model, not only did their outcomes just generate great outcomes, they actually started becoming better mothers, better wives, better colleagues, because their husbands would be like, can we send her to another program? They love me, and their kids are like, thank you. And I'm like, what's happening? And I reversed engineered, and I realized that it was by them being gracious when they communicated that they were getting such positive results. They were now carrying it over to home in different parts, and they were becoming better human beings. So that's when it tied together and realized that it is through communication that you can start getting better outcomes by communicating with empathy and listening, and that it actually creates and takes you to becoming a better human being.
I pulled out a quote when you're talking about graciousness, and this is when you're starting to define gracious assertiveness. And the quote says, graciousness involves a spirit of gratitude to all the people who cross your path. It is kindness, but deeper, a belief that we are all connected as human beings, end quote. And I love that, because I've never really defined graciousness, but I love it when in context of just the workplace, the home life, the people you interact with, just being kind and being human, that could probably impact the workplace specifically to transform it into a psychologically safe work environment. Maybe just unpack that for me.
Absolutely. I mean, research shows over and over and over that the energy, right, that you bring to the table, that you bring to your space, and energy mean one of kindness, that it's reciprocal. It reciprocates not only to you, but it builds an environment of safety, of an emotional safety, which is a lack of judgment and ability to be authentic and be yourself. And it really does provide a place where you have less workplace toxicity. You create a culture of transparency because people now feel that they can be transparent, at least as much as you can at work. But it really does require someone to come in with intention of wanting to be grateful, of gratitude, of appreciation, because people can use the words that I teach them, but if the tone and the spirit is not there, it's going to backfire and people are going to be able to tell you're not authentic. So it's about shifting your own energy into one of gratitude. And when you're able to be grateful for whatever it is in life, you show up differently and you can lead with graciousness.
Yeah. Yeah, when you were first talking about how you're helping these women and they're probably being assertive, but then the tone wasn't quite matching and probably wasn't working in their favor. So like when you add the graciousness plus assertiveness, what does that look like? Maybe just define that for us.
Absolutely. It looks, and I'll show you, Brandon. I'll be able to say, even if I'm going to completely disagree with you on something, let's say that you believe that, blue is a better color than red. I would say, hi, Brandon, thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to share this space with you and have this conversation with you. I know we're talking about colors and I know you think, blue is greater than red. And I completely respect and understand your perspective. However, I beg to differ. I think red is more, and let me tell you why. Right.
Yeah,
And
that's
so,
great.
I mean, how can you not like me? How can you like?
No, and by the way, red is my favorite color, so we're
I
on the
even
same side.
converted you now. See, now you like me. Just kidding. But it's the spirit of generosity. Just because I disagree with you doesn't mean you're wrong. It doesn't mean that something is wrong. It just means that we disagree. But the spirit of humanity is still there.
Yeah, I love that. In graciously assertive leadership, you've created 8 pillars around this. What are those?
So it starts with being self-aware. Self-aware is key to any transformation, to any kind of leadership. You need to be self-aware, your strengths, how you're showing up, which is number 2, social awareness. You need to understand how your energy, how you're showing up is impacting your environment, the people you lead, because then you go to pillar number 3 is self-regulation. And some people don't like that word. They like self-management. And I said, I get self-management, but self-management can be like time management. No, I'm talking about regulating your own emotions, how you're showing up. Are you taking your frustration out on people? Because that creates, once again, a toxic environment. So regulate yourself, but you need to know how you impact people. Then the 4th one is gratitude. You need to lead from a place of gratitude because it shifts your energy. And that means before I talk to you, Brandon, if I know you well, I need to think about what I'm grateful about you. It may be that you're smiling every day. It may be that you come in and bring coffee for somebody. I mean, whatever I can find to be grateful about, find that gratitude before you speak to that person. So gratitude. The next one is self-love. And I know that's one that's like really, but honestly, unless you can be compassionate and loving to yourself, it's difficult for you to be that to other people genuinely. And needs to start, because then that also helps with being able to build, which is the next pillar, healthy boundaries. Healthy boundaries are key. And we see burnout like, crazy right now. And you can't perform at your best when you don't have healthy boundaries. You need to be able to take care of yourself and build those boundaries, whether it's your personal and professional life. The next one is zero tolerance to judgment, which is the most difficult one for people because people say, I need to work on myself and my judgment first. And now you want me to create an environment that has zero tolerance. But because I have that type of environment in my workplace and the people that I lead in, I have principles around that. And it's possible, but you have to be very intentional with it. And that means if someone is judging, being able to say, hey, Brandon, I understand you see the situation like that, but how about we reframe it so that we're not judging an individual, but we're actually looking at the behavior instead. Or something like that, right? And then the last one is graciously assertive communication, which is what I gave you an example right now. So communication is one of the pillars to leadership, graciously assertive leadership.
Those 8 pillars. When I read those, I was like, I'm sure people struggle with these a little bit.
It's about progress, Brandon, not perfection.
Yeah, absolutely. I imagine the healthy boundaries one. And the zero tolerance for judgment, people struggle with those ones.
Those
a
lot, absolutely. And it's you nailed it right there. Those are the 2 that people struggle with a lot, especially healthy boundaries. Zero tolerance to judgment, they're like, that's way down the road. Healthy boundaries, I struggle with every day, right? Yeah. And I just think it's a work-life environment and working from home, sometimes it's difficult. And so healthy boundaries is something we definitely all need to work on.
Yeah, and I imagine, even incremental changes to these 8 pillars will eventually lead to transformation, right?
Absolutely. Incremental changes, even self-awareness, that in and of itself, 97% of executives from research show do not have good self-awareness. And they're leading us, right? And And it's not because they don't want to, they just don't know the difference. No one's ever taught them. But self-awareness is key. So just understanding, hey, I'm frustrated today. Let me be conscious about not releasing it on people.
Yeah.
And if I am, let me apologize. How many
There's
leaders
a quote.
do that?
Yeah. There's a quote that I think like captures this really well. The quote says, transformation isn't an instant success. Instead, it is a series of tiny, almost indiscernible shifts in thinking and doing, end quote. And what I love about that is, I think when I speak to a lot of authors who have a concept or an idea or framework, a lot of people think that action just always needs to be taken. And I think there is a piece to the, like, you have to do something to make transformation, but it is truly a mindset shift as well.
Absolutely.
And that's sometimes a bigger hurdle, isn't it?
Yes, because we have limiting beliefs of the way things are supposed to be. And we believe those are the truth, like regardless, right? And no, they're our truth for right now, but that can change based on our own release of that limiting belief of what we think it has to be. So our own mind is our greatest barrier.
In chapter 3, you talk about the role of morality and spirituality and graciously assertive leadership. How do these play a role in our leadership transformation?
You know, getting really clear about your values is the key to on a path to truly living a purposeful and moral leadership life. Because if you don't know what you stand for or what you value, how are you even going to lead yourself, therefore lead others? But it's a leader that stands with conviction about what they believe. Even if someone else disagrees with them, they will honor and respect that conviction, right? Even at times when it's the extreme of something that you're opposite, you can at least be like, that person really stands with their conviction and morality. I think that's what we lack so much, that people will make decisions based on just profit margins instead of humanity, based on what's going to gain more power instead of what's going to help more people. I mean, profits are great, but at what cost, once again, right? Where does the balance come in? And a moral leader is able to balance the both and be able to say, yes, I want a return on investment for my shareholders, but I got to do what's right for humanity.
When you're working with people, do you have them start with that first, like understanding their values and morality versus like, let's just dive right into the 8 pillars and make incremental change? Because it seems like you need a North Star
exactly
first before you start doing anything, because that should inform what you're doing, right? Your actions and behaviors, right?
Yes, we actually are understanding and getting clear about your values is the second step that we do. The first one is we share what we call leadership crucibles. And a crucible is probably the greatest maybe obstacle you had to overcome growing up. It could be childhood trauma. It could be something that based your whole trajectory of how you see the world, right? Because once you realize that has been holding you back, because we make decisions when we're young and we live through them, and you realize, oh, wow, I never thought that I don't trust people because of this that happened to me, and that has now manifested into not having good workplace relationships, whatever it may be. You realize how we have the power to change our narrative. And so that is the beginning of now trusting the process, because you really have to trust this process. And then we start working on, so we kind of go like, wham, here we go. Like, and they're like, wow, okay, now I'm invested. Then they jump all in, and then we start with values.
How do we develop our graciously assertive communication skills? Because like, and nowadays we're not just always talking like this, like either in person or face to face video call. A lot of times we're communicating in email, text, and in different ways. Body language is probably key too. Maybe what are some practical strategies around that?
I would say, some very basic strategies, because there is 4 steps to the model. But even before getting to those 4 steps, if you want just one simple strategy that will change your dynamics, even in email, is never start an email, open an email by just asking a question or giving a deliverable, whatever it may be. Always say, hi, Brandon, I hope you're having a great day. Hi, Brandon, I hope everything is great. I mean, just that basic sentence will change the dynamics of that interaction, even when they respond. Because remember, 90% of individuals reciprocate behavior. So if you open it like that, you now open them up to listen to what you have to say in that email, to be more gracious about giving you the opportunity to whatever it is that you need or want from them, to be more open to provide that for you, versus just asking for something. And some people say, I don't like all that mushy stuff. Like, just give it to me direct. Well, I get that. However, I've never, ever had anyone say, I don't like the graciousness that comes with that. It really is always welcome. When people don't like when you're BSing them. That's what they don't like, right? If you're making it like too much but basic graciousness is being kind, thinking about the person before you think about the task, and wishing them a good day, hoping they're having a great day. That simple step, just starting with that, will start changing the way people interact with you. And as you start seeing, the response to that and how people now are interacting with you, it motivates you and inspires you to do it more. And then to go to the next step, which is being empathetic towards people before you even ask for what you want. And my philosophy is don't ever ask for something you're not willing to offer. You want empathy? You better be empathetic. You want them to listen? You better start by listening, and you have to offer it first, because, you have to lead by example, and that's leadership. Lead by example, be empathetic first, listen first. I mean, they're very basic, but fundamental. And I know they're not easy, but they're simple.
When you're talking about this, like, all I could think about is, like, early in my 20s, I read How to Win Friends and Influence People. And it was such a simple book, right? But one chapter always stuck out to me and was Smile. Or I don't know if the title actually was, but it was just about smiling, like smile a lot. And I always have. I've always been a big smiler. And I always felt like by smiling around people, I'm approachable.
Yeah.
And people might recognize my respect for them and that connect with them at a human level. But because communication now becomes so impersonal with like text and email, I try to get my smile through it in some ways by saying what you're describing, like, hi, I hope you're having a great day, or throwing an extra exclamation point if I need to. And I try not to be over the top because it's real. It's me. Do you have any tips around that?
Yes, I would say being over the top means when you're trying too hard. I mean, it comes off like, okay, level it down one bit, right? But but being appropriate means, once again, being gracious, being kind. One sentence opening is good enough to make the person feel good. If you're doing 3 sentences, and then maybe you're taking it too far. So I would say be genuine. And when you're genuine, people will receive that. And like you said, getting your smile across via, a sentence that you say, hope you're having a great day, or an exclamation point on, whatever it is that you may say. Whatever's genuine to you, Brandon, is going to feel authentic. And that's what's important, that people feel it's authentic. And the smile aspect that you said, I'll share with you quickly that when I was growing up, I just noticed everybody would smile at me, and I'd be like, Mommy, I still remember, Mommy, everybody's so nice. They smile at me. And she looked at me and she said, they're smiling back.
Yes.
And I still get the chills when I think of it, because I just smiled and I didn't realize they were reciprocating. And that's why. So it starts with one person. One person can change the entire dynamics of a relationship.
That is so true. And it's like, as leaders too, we need to model this behavior. And because people are watching, and it's this marginal stuff that eventually snowballs because people might reciprocate it. They might model the behavior that you're modeling as a leader. And it's infectious, positive and negatively.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And, I have a lot of leaders that say, I won't smile so much because then it may be, I open myself up to people asking me for a lot of things if I smile. I said, then put systems in place to regulate that, where you can smile a lot, but in order to ask something of you, they need to go through some steps. So it's not, if you need to protect yourself, I get that, but don't not smile because of it. And instead put systems in place to protect that space and time that you need, because leadership and that workplace environment needs leaders that are kind and gracious and smile.
Yeah. When it comes to the other pillars in particular, how can leaders model the behaviors so it catches on with their team, their culture, all that?
I mean, truly, Brandon, they got to do the work. They got to do, nothing in life that's great comes easy, right? To become a great leader where you connect with individuals and really lead a place with hundreds and hundreds of thousands of employees who are living in a good space at work. You need to do the work because you need to lead by example. You need to be self-aware. You need to be socially aware. You need to self-regulate. I mean, we see these tyrant CEOs, people firing via Zoom. Really? I mean, that is like the basic 101 of what not to do. But they're so invested in the work and the deliverables that they forget the humanity part of it. And they forget that these people are the ones that give them the results that they need. And so they need to start by taking time to be more mindful of developing themselves. And unfortunately, business schools don't teach MBAs in this. They're not even part of an MBA class, emotional intelligence and some of these pillars. So they have to take it upon themselves to learn and develop these skills that will help them become better leaders. So I tell them, the future depends on it, because with AI and everything that's coming to play, emotional intelligence is going to be the differentiator.
It absolutely will be. And I think the people who are really good at using the tools, but also have the human element to it, are going to win long term.
I agree.
When it comes to like ungracious behaviors in the workplace, what are you seeing out there? And how can leaders like deal with it, mitigate it, change it?
We see lately, especially the last maybe year, what I've been told and what I see and from my students, and they see it's a lot of passive aggressive kind of behavior. And I do believe that it's individuals are frustrated, and that's how they pass it down to other people. That's how they act out. Passive aggressive behavior is acting out, right? When you can't act, you don't want to be rude to someone directly, but you're indirectly. And there should be conversation around that. Like there should be, and I think it's because they don't find a safe space to be able to remove their burdens and, just kind of, it's not safe. It's interesting because in the programs that I have, when the dean of the business school asked them, why is this program different? The women will say, we don't have to use our armor here.
Incredible.
I know. I was blown away. I'm like, that's how they describe it.
Powerful.
We don't need to use our armor here. We can come without armor. And that means that they go to work with armor. So that armor, after wearing it for 10 hours a day, of course, you're going to be frustrated and you're going to take it out on anybody or anything that's in front of you. So I do think that the ways of being at work need to change, because passive aggressiveness is what I'm seeing more and more. Because nowadays you can't be ungracious so easily without being called, because it's all about inclusivity. So guess what? You're just going to shift to passive aggressive.
I pull out another quote and I got to share it because it's really powerful. The quote says, self-awareness empowers us to make well-informed decisions, have greater self-confidence, and achieve personal growth, end quote. And I think like that's so true. Like with any sort of transformation, we need to have self-awareness so we can make mindset shifts. So what are some of those like big hurdles for us to get over to make this transformation into a gracious assertiveness?
You got to get out of your ego. I'm sorry, but ego-driven individuals are just a recipe for disaster. And, we all need a little bit of ego. That keeps us going.
Yeah.
But there's some leaders who lead with ego, and they're so invested in ego and power that they don't take the time to realize that that is only going to hurt them in the long run. That is going to set them up for disaster. That really it's about humanity and self-awareness. So sometimes they need a big fall. They need a big loss or something that's going to kick them and say, you know what, if you don't shape up, it's going to get worse. And unfortunately, sometimes that's what it takes. But my hope is that they don't have to go through that they're able to see, you know what, I just want to be a better leader. But it's honestly their own minds, their ego. That's what I see over and over and over. And they get caught up on what people tell them, on their power, and they don't want to lose it whatsoever. But then it's very telling that if they're defined by their ego and power, that is not healthy. And that just means that it's sooner or later, they're going to fall.
Yeah. I'm sure you formed the ideas in this book from working with a ton of women, probably classroom, research, all of it, right? So I'm sure you've got tons of stories of people who've made this transformation. What are a couple like anecdotal stories, or if maybe you could think of really one powerful one where somebody took the 8 pillars to heart and really made a professional transformation.
Absolutely. There's so many, and it's progress, right? It's little incremental steps, and they see it over the years. And actually I've taken all my research and interviewed hundreds of women and, got the transcripts and looked at patterns. And this is where the 8 pillars came from. And I can think of one right now where she was leading an organization in a department for one of the most progressive and probably, artificial intelligence companies in the world. And she was having difficulty connecting with team members and inspiring and motivating them. And she didn't understand why, when she had work hard, and she's gotten to a director level and she wasn't able to elevate, and she didn't know why. And so she came to our program and she started working on self-awareness, social awareness. And it was interesting because when she interviewed for the program, she's like, I connected with the interviewers, right? And the interview team came back and told me, we won't accept her. She didn't connect with us. But she thought she was connecting. It was incredible. And she was high level. I mean, she's making $300,000 a year. So,
yeah.
So her self-awareness was very low.
Yeah.
So the beauty about this is that I told her, look, the interview team is struggling with admitting you to the program. They didn't feel you connected. If you're open to it, I would love to have a debrief with the interview team and yourself and myself so that you can learn what is happening here. Only if you're open to it. Because that's basically 4 women are going to come in and tell you what you did wrong, or, but with a lot of love and comfort. And it's all about helping. She said, absolutely, I want to learn. See, that to me is what it takes, because most people would be like, no, thank you. I'm out of here. I'm not interested. The program is not for me. She was willing to listen. And what they told her is, you talked about vulnerability. You didn't exhibit it. And they shared, when you were talking about, your son and his autism, you talked about what it brought out in you, but you didn't tell us how it made you feel. Like, so they were specific. Like, we want to see vulnerability. How did it feel to you? That's vulnerability, right? Not just talking about it, but how you felt. And so I remember, because after that day changed her, because it started for her to say, oh, I have to share how I feel. And she started learning, not only did she transform self-awareness, how she was showing up, elevated herself in her career, she is now an advisor for our program and is very much involved and is helping other women grow, because she is now she's a completely different person.
That illustrates to me, like, this idea that you had early on and towards the end of the book too, about better humans making better leaders.
Exactly.
That was a self-awareness transformation right there. And I think that those people are going to win in the end. The people that can bring out the humanity and everything that they do, they're going to connect with people. They're going to grow the next generation of leaders too.
Absolutely. And let me tell you, her husband is like, go do more programs, go for it, even though it takes time away from it. And her son, he says, thank you, Dr. Davidds, for giving me my mommy. Her son, meaning like giving her a different level, because she wasn't present before. She was so caught up with work. Now she's present for her son. It changes yourself, your transformation, your relationships. It shifts what's important to you, because you start seeing results. So to me, some people are like, well, I don't really care about becoming a better human. I just want to be a better leader. I'm like, okay, let me give you the steps to better graciously assertive communication, because I know even if they start with the mechanics, they'll start getting results that are so powerful that they'll still want to do more. And eventually they will become better human beings. They just don't know it yet.
That's so well said. Well, Yasmin, as we wrap up this discussion, what parting thoughts do you have, or anything you want to leave people with as we exit this discussion?
I would say, I would love to tell people that to try to find the gift in all the challenges in their lives. Find the gift, not just survival, but gift, because that will shift you into a place of gratitude. And graciousness really starts with gratitude.
The book is Graciously Assertive: How Becoming a Better Human Makes You a Better Leader. My guest today has been Dr. Yasmin Davidds. Thanks so much for coming on the podcast.
Thank you so much for having me, Brandon.